This episode is brought to you by Aquaries Productions. If you need anything done, you go check them out at facebook.com/Aquaries Productions, or you can email them at aquariusproductions@gmail.com.
This episode is also brought to you by that dirty motherfucker BJ DeBlow. He knows what he did. He would have started his own podcast, but he's too chicken shit.
Okay.
Start the show.
Ooh, you know what that music means? It means it's time for Open Micers Podcast. My name is Jason Robbins.
I'm a human chicken nugget, Jacob Craig,
Yes.
and our guest tonight is the founder of Lafayette Comedy, who has hosted shows, upcoming shows he's hosting for the likes of Kurt Brandnoller, Carlos Mencia, Todd Barry, Shane Gillis, and many more. Too many for me to be fucked to write down. So you're going to have to go to LafayetteComedy.com to check out all of those great performers, get all those fucking tickets. Please welcome the mastermind behind it all, Mr. JP Leonard, to the program. How you doing today, man?
Woo.
I'm good, man. You could have left off that Mencia plug, but that's all right. That's on
Hey,
me.
look, man,
take her-
look. There's only so long you can suffer before you got to do that stand-up again, man. Come on.
Well, I'm just worried about me. They just the blowback has been brutal on me, so that's.
I've been
fine.
seeing that everywhere. I've also been seeing people too, like these holier than thou producers that are like, yeah, we turned down Mencia last month. Like, yeah, good for you, cocksucker. But despite what he did, it's still good for a small scene to have a credit of being like, hey, I opened for Carlos Mencia.
And not just that, it's just trying to get the people, a different audience. So that's my main goal, but I regret it, so that's fine. We'll move past it.
That's an amazing plug for an upcoming show.
Yeah, I mean, still come to the show, but no, it's just the blowback. But I mean, sure, the show's gonna be fine. He's still got a big agency. It's just, he's okay. Moving on. Next, who's the next sponsor?
But I mean, we mentioned other people too, dude. Like you're like the Michael Jordan of fucking booking local comedy, dude, because you've got all these heavy hitters coming through. I mean, what's that process like, dude? Like, how are you able to reel in all these big fish?
It just started with like a track record, man. Started back in 2015. First show was Tom Segura, right before he broke on Netflix, right before I think Completely Normal. And we nailed that one, boom. And then from there, it was just building a relationship with the agencies, and and that was it. And then it just keep on knocking out shows, good, organized, well-run shows. And then now most of the time it's just people hit me directly, and it's just just keeps growing and growing. So we just had Eric Bergstrom this past weekend, and then Robert Kelly before that, as Pat before that, Sean Pat and Shane Torres. And then the rest of this year is just, pretty killer.
Hell yeah, man. Sean Patton's actually our best friend. Little known fact. Best friend of the program.
Oh, I just saw and hear that Kyle Kinane's coming in December.
Yeah,
Oh,
buddy.
yeah.
Yeah,
He's one of my favorite
second
comedians
time.
right now. Put me on that show, please. Please.
You already lost your spot to Dave Stone. So
Damn that.
sorry.
Dave Stone, screw him. Give me the slut.
Yeah.
Yo, let's talk about that for a minute, though, man. Like, what kind of openers are you getting for these people? Like, are you having trouble finding local openers? Are you getting regional openers in? What's going on?
So what I do is I default to the use of the artist and say, hey, you bring in your own feature, which a lot of them do. Some of them already have ties to other people. I know this person, so I let them dictate it, and then from there it's basically like, okay, what else? If you need openers, I can do it. Do you need video clips? A lot of them want to approve it, but no, man, I've been using a lot of my locals, and they've been killing it. I'm finally, like, I feel like I'm in a position where I can kind of force more locals on there, and they I guess it's like the agents and the comics trust that it's gonna be a good show. And shoot, we just had Robert Kelly 2 weeks ago, and every person on there killed. So not just Lafayette people, I use Baton Rouge people, and sometimes New Orleans people. Just depends on. I know, like, I had Isaac Cozell just went through there with Eric Bergstrom, and that's one of my good buddies. So he came to the Friday night show this past weekend, and just destroyed. So like it's been nice, and it's trying to. I'm also on the point of trying to get like all my locals to grow them to move from past 8 to 10 minute sets to 15, 20, 25.
Yeah.
Which is really the next phase. So
Right, yeah. And that's the mark of a good producer too, is investing in that homegrown talent so that you don't just have a clump of open micers like we have in Mississippi and three comics that have over 20 minutes.
yeah,
Um,
no, I mean, like our scene's pretty small, so I have maybe 4 to 7 solid comics that I can trust, to like really deliver. And then we got a bunch of open and newcomers and everything,
right.
but it's just but yeah, a small pool, and just trying to find who's also the best fit for that show too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How was Texas? I know you just got home. You were touring with Eric Bergstrom yourself, I do believe.
Yeah, we did. So I had him here Friday, and then we did 2 shows in Texas, in Houston at the Riot, well at Rutgers, but the show's called the Riot, which is killer. So about like
Hmm.
65, 70 people per show, all seated tables. So did 2 shows over there, which is killer. And then Sunday night we went to Austin, and got to do the Creek and Cave, which is some you know I'm very, very nervous. I have this thing where, like, if I respect a room, I'm gonna get really nervous because Creek and Cave is like an institution in New York, and now it's in Austin, and so don't want to look like a fool, but at the same time, like, I really respect everything that that room has done since it's been there and before, because it's bring through amazing comedians. So I take it seriously, and that's the most nervous I've ever been, to do a show. But it was great, great venue, great people. So, and I love Austin. So,
How is the
That's
the
awesome.
comedy scene in Austin? Because
oh, it's
I would
go
love
ahead.
to get
Sorry.
out that way. I actually one of our biggest comedians a couple of years ago went out that way, Derek Copswa, and he's
Hmm.
out that way now. He was running the not what is landmass here on the Gulf Coast. He
Yeah,
was running that a few years ago, and then he went out to Austin, and it seems like he's doing pretty well out there.
yeah, him and his wife, they're both solid comedians. Oh, so good. Austin scene's great. Like pre-COVID, it was great. It's where we had a guy from Baton Rouge move over there, and I was like disappointed because I don't get to use him anymore. But he loves it over there. And then now after COVID, I mean, everyone knows about everyone moving there, but their scene's still great. You got all the great shows are coming back. I'm gonna be back out there in October for the Altercation Comedy Festival, which is just a stacked lineup as well. So, yeah, I'm glad it's rolling. It should be a great scene, and it is, because it just got a talent. There's so many great comics there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's becoming somewhat of a renaissance again too, where it's not like in I don't want to say New York, but it's definitely not like in LA where everything you do is put under a microscope. It's kind of creating these closed circuits again where you come into this comedy club, you do your comedy, whatever you say stays in that room, so you can just kind of make mistakes as a comic and not really
Yeah,
get pitchforked over it.
no, it's that professionalism that goes into a scene. How that should be run, and it's not just for the audience members, but also for your local comics. And they got of course every scene's gonna have some yahoos, but they've got it down. They've got it what needs to be done, and it's a great scene. And just going to that's the first room I've got to visit, post COVID. But Creek and Cave is just it's a great. You got outdoor, you got indoors, very
Mhm.
flexible room, and yeah, just really good people.
Yeah, man. So a lot of people don't know this, but Eric Bergstrom is actually our best friend of the program. Uh,
Don't tell Sean. All right.
yeah. Well, don't tell Sean. Don't tell Jenny Zagrino. Don't
I'll
tell
give him. I'll
don't
get you
tell Jason
Mencia.
Robbins.
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't tell Carlos Mencia. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't
But
tell him.
did you get to share a car with him? What's it? Because I don't know how you guys travel, but I know that whenever I go on the road with somebody, we share a car 100% of the time, and
Yeah.
I always end up finding some kind of weird quirk about that person by the end of the road trip.
No, it was yeah. We did share a car. We drove from here to Houston to Austin. No, it was cool. I got to take him to his first Bucky's, which was like
Oh wow!
that's a proud moment as me as a father. And
Rite of passage right there.
yeah, we went to a Bucky's on Saturday and Sunday, and then of course I hit it coming back. So No, it was cool. I mean, we get to talk. You get a lot of. We didn't play. I didn't realize we turned on the radio for like 10 minutes, and that was just we were discussing a particular song. But other than that, it was off the whole time. Didn't have anything playing, no radio, no podcast. It was just talking, and I love nerd out. I call it inside baseball, just getting stories from whatever. And I was at his Comedy Central half hour a couple years ago, the recording of it, the taping
Mhm.
in New Orleans. And so, you just talk about things from that and, just, everything. We talk about the scene here, talk about what's going on in New York and everything. And it was just an easy conversation. He's a good dude, man.
Okay, so now I'm interested, Jacob, since me and you do a lot of traveling together. What's my quirk?
So we haven't gone on tour since you stopped vaping, but your quirk used to be every 5 minutes with that fucking oral fixation, having to have something in your goddamn mouth, puffing it in my fucking face for 4 hours.
Hey, at least it smelled like Fruity Pebbles.
Oh, gross.
Yeah,
We replaced
right.
that with Bucky's beaver nuggets. That was our oral fixation. Like
Hell yeah,
every
dude.
couple miles, just eating those. So.
Yeah, I'm a horrible road partner. The last person I went on tour with, he ended up getting pizza in his floorboard carpet. So
Yeah, you are horrible.
yeah, I'm a horrible person. But to be fair, we also stopped at Bucky's, so
Well,
there's a
yeah,
lot of
that's fine.
food
I
flying
got
around.
a rubber weather resistant mat, so we'll be okay.
There you go, man. But I feel like we've talked about your production a lot, so I want to talk about Jason P. Leonard, the comedian, a little bit. Basic question: origins in comedy. Run it down for us. I'm sure you've been asked a million times. How'd you get started?
I was booking bands for a bar that I used to before I did comedy. I did music for like 14 years, and my band would play this place, and he asked me to start booking some things, so I was helping him out. And then I went to New Orleans one night, met some comics, and then we were talking just a random place, and I mentioned I book bands, and they're like, if you ever want to try comedy, let's go. And so I went back to the owner. He's like, yeah. So it was a monthly Wednesday night show. And I didn't go for the first couple months because I had band practice on Wednesdays, which is just sounds dumb. But um, and then one night they're like, hey, we do an open mic. And I never knew you could do comedy. I was a diehard comedy fan since I was a kid. I never knew you could just do it. And so I was like, you know what? I am going to try this. And so went up my first time. And after that, I was like, okay. And then they invited me back the next week just to do time. And I was like, okay. And I had all my jokes written word for word. And then, so it's still a monthly show. And then bands weren't working there. And I mentioned to the guys, like, look, I could do more comedy. He goes, every Friday is yours. Gave me a budget. And then that's what
Wow.
started it. And then it was unique because we did an open mic, but we didn't do the open mic to after the show. So the first hour was a booked show. I have a headliner, and like you could bring someone. Maybe. So I was a host, and there was like 2 to 3 comedians. And then because I always say my worst fear is for someone in the audience, their first time coming to comedy is to come to an open mic. So the first hour was like a good solid book show, and then after that, we would take a 5 minute break and then roll the open mic. And then that's what kind of started it. I mean, we had like people like Dave Ross came through, Ryan Singer. I didn't even know who they were. They were just like, hey, I'm coming through. I heard you got a show. And then that kind of snowballed it. And then it was once I started doing it and realizing, hey, the only way to grow this one is to, like, as get people to your shows, but also to attract more comedians was to like got to take it to the next step. And then that's when I put in the offer for old Tommy Segura. And then, yeah, since February 2015, it became like a legit thing. And then, that year we had, him, Mike Lawrence, Nate Bargatze, Joe DeRosa, Shane Moss. I mean, we had so many people, and it's just been kind of rolling ever since.
So what do you prefer to do? Do you I mean, of course you like comedy, but which one's easier, booking and doing music shows or comedy shows?
Oh, comedy, because I did everything in music other than play the other instruments. Like I booked the shows, I did all the PR, I did all the behind the scenes stuff, the designing, and I played guitar, and I ran sound from the stage. And that's a lot of equipment to set up. Whereas comedy is just pretty easy. You do your time, and then most time you just kind of make sure everything's good. And at worst, I got to show up with my own mic and cable. Other than that, it's all, kind of done for you. So yeah, a
Yeah,
comedy's a lot easier. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I don't have to show up 5 hours for a gig, and then
Same
worry
here. Being
worry about.
a drummer for over 20
Yeah,
years, it's like I got a lot less stuff to carry when it's just comedy.
the sound checks a lot quicker.
Yeah,
One, all right, we're good. We don't even count the three.
yeah.
Most comedians are literate, but that's fine. But no, it's yeah, it's so much easier. And then then you're also at the mercy while you're out stage of three other people or four other people playing the same thing as you, and one of them gets drunk, and it's like you can't boot out no offense, you can't boot the drummer tonight because you need a drummer. So then
Always
whereas
the
comedy,
drummer.
it's like yeah, it's always a drummer. But if it's comedy, it's like, oh, you messed up, then you don't have to do the show. So yeah, way
Right.
easier. It's scarier to do comedy because it's just your dumb thoughts and a crowd of people. And I always say drunk people love being told to be quiet, so that's a little different. But and with music, even when I played acoustic acts, people that weren't into you just became a background jukebox. That was it. You
Yeah.
could just
Right.
keep going through it, whereas comedy, you can't just talk through it. So
Have you had problems with the rowdy Louisiana crowd?
not too much. Every now and then we get an idiot. Usually they're really, really drunk, or they just didn't get the clue. But you get some rooms where, like, the people won't be quiet, but usually the audience members or the bartenders will, say, hey, be quiet, and that's a big thing. Unless it's the bartenders themselves, and you're like, hey, come on, please,
Right.
help. But no, we every now and then we get a Yahoo, but for the most part, I would say since 2015, I've kicked out, like, forcibly, like, hey, you got to leave, like, 5 to 10 people max. So, which is amazing odds.
Yeah, that's an incredible track record. I think I've told you this. I know for sure I told Jenny Zagrino and Andrew Youngblood. I was on the same show as them. You would hate Mississippi. You'd hate it.
Oh, I
I
think
think
he's.
we lost JP.
All right, there he's back. He's back.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm still here. Sorry. I've done which Mississippi, which city?
Well, I can speak for the coast. I can't speak for North Mississippi. But
Mm.
on the coast, you'd fucking hate it. You wouldn't get a word out edgewise. That's just
I've
how it
done
is.
I've done Hattiesburg and loved it.
Yeah.
I've done Meridian. That was interesting. That was like maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. Where else in Mississippi? I did Biloxi, but that was a big show at the Hard Rock. So
Gotcha.
yeah, that's all I've done. So, and they've been fine.
Yeah, man. No, bar shows in Mississippi, dude. I'm gonna go to an open
Yeah,
mic tonight after this. I don't even know why I'm trying new jokes, Jason. I don't know
yeah.
why. Because I'm gonna get talked over. That's why I've had to develop my style of yelling into a fucking microphone so that people will listen to me. It's the mark of a
Yeah.
Mississippi comedian.
Yeah.
I want you to do this tonight. I want you to do the opposite. I want you to get like Todd very quiet. I want you to be like
Yeah.
very quiet, and to see if that changes it.
You know,
I
Todd
don't think
Berry
I don't
passed
think
me
he
up
has
as
the
his feature.
ability to be that quiet. I mean, we're
I
talking about.
And also, Todd Berry passed me up as his future. Maybe I don't know why. Maybe because we're too opposite. I don't know. But
Yeah, he's a unique goose. Love him to death, but
he's
he's person
definitely a
his
lizard
own.
person.
I
Uh,
love him because our cats share the same birthday, so just saying.
what kind of white people shit is knowing your cat's birthday?
It was on the adoption form when he was a rescue. I mean, give me
You
credit.
adopted a cat?
I did. I
That's
got
even
Yeah.
two
whiter.
adopted cats. I've got the paperwork in the drawer right here next
Wait,
to me.
Bro, I
More-
found mine
more-
on the side of the road.
More like my cat adopted me. Okay,
Yes,
sorry.
yeah.
He saved me.
He saved me. We found each other. So, all right.
Speaking of Todd Berry, who is your famous comic that you've gotten to work with to date?
Like most famous?
No, favorite.
Favorite. Oh,
Yeah.
God, that's hard. I don't want to.
Carlos Mencia.
I haven't worked with him yet, so he's still in the batter's
Yeah.
box.
Because I know you mentioned Segura, and that would be mine because I've been such a fan of his for so long, personally.
Yeah. For me, it's not only like I'm going into performance, but also like the hang, like pre-show,
Right.
post-hang.
Right.
I couldn't pick out one. Like I just had the most amazing weekend with Robert Kelly, here in
Yeah.
town. Mark Norman's always great. Sean Patton's always great. Man, it just depends. It's like there's so many, Shane Torres. I mean, it probably like if I had to put it up there, Emo Phillips, because that one was very
Ooh.
unique, and that's someone I've watched as a kid,
So is he
and
still around?
now he is. We had him like 3 years ago, and he came down like 2 days early. Went to all these Cajun jams. We ended up at a Whataburger after the show, which is the strangest place to be with Emo Phillips. And then I had to drive. I had to drive him to New Orleans. Him and his wife to his New Orleans show, and like that alone, you get 3 hours in the car with Emo Phillips.
So is he
It was
like
kind
that
of
in real life, or is that just a stage persona?
not as animated, but
Okay.
yeah, yeah, still, it's amazing. So I would say, like that, like I know who my favorite comedians are, and just those little hangs, if it's just for a couple hours or whatever, my little top five is kind of, and I've had like, most of them, and that to me is just the favorite, the best thing because you just hanging with them, especially when you open it up to not just talking comedy, just other
So
run of the mill
was
things.
comedy something that you loved growing up? Like, were you a fan of comedians growing up, or was it something that you kind of grew into?
No, Die Hard. My parents didn't PG anything, so they let me watch whatever. So
Mhm.
I remember being a kid and watching, Pryor's Live on the Sunset Strip and any comedy that came on TV. I would get home from, elementary school, middle school, watch A&E at the Improv, any half hour
Because I
shows
think
in
me and you are
TV.
are pretty much the same age. So did you watch things like Caroline's Comedy Hour and things like that?
Yeah,
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 I used to
like
watch all
all
those.
those things, anything I could find, late night stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
I just loved it. I never knew you could do comedy. I just never put the thought in my head, and I only went to a few comedy shows. Once I was past 18, and it was like rare things. I just and there was no scenes that I even knew in Lafayette. I was so involved in music, but you just didn't hear about it. So the only comedians I saw was going to New Orleans or going to Houston.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I wish I would have discovered. Like, I wish I would have known you can do that like music, a long time ago. Because I mean, I got into it too late, not too late, but like so late in life that I'm like, if only if I would have devoted that music time to that, who knows?
Right.
I
Do,
feel you there. I think
Yeah, yeah,
we're kind of in that
I feel like
same boat.
everyone's gonna have that feeling though, because I started
yeah.
doing comedy when I was 17, and I'm still always all the time like, man, I wish I would have started when I was 14.
Well, you
Like if I
can.
just
I
had
mean,
that
like, yeah,
extra time.
yeah, exactly. No, I'm talking about like I wish I would have got into it like right when I got into college, because that would have
Yeah.
just been,
Yeah, but I feel like
and
if
who,
I would have gotten into it then at that young of an age, I don't think I would have progressed as fast as I did because I don't
yeah,
know. I feel like at that age I wouldn't have had the I don't know the life experience that I have now
yeah,
and all the
yeah.
things that I
Sure.
find funny. Well, I
Yeah.
mean,
Keep talking out of your ass.
It's also like like what the networking then. So when I was in college, when I started college, the internet was just was still there was still no social media thing. So how
Very
were you
true.
finding out about things?
mhm.
So now it's so easy. I mean, look what we're doing. Or you could connect with someone on Facebook, and next thing you know, you could build your whole tour in one night. Just messaging people. So I mean, it was a totally different beast. And to me, I would probably, if I would have got into it, I would have moved to like where New York, that was the mecca, and I never had any desire to ever go to New York. Like it was always this thing I saw on TV, and now it's like I would move there tomorrow. It's just a I don't know. I mean, things happen, and so right now for me, it's just like, all right, well, if you're in it, make it work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's perks of starting, wherever you are in life. Obviously, there's perks of starting when you're 17. You have all this time to progress and grow. You're going to be, you know, 10 years into comedy by 27. And there's
Yeah,
perks of starting in later in life, like Jason said. I mean, you're going to have all this life experience to draw on. So, you can sit down and write a 15-minute story about something that happened to you in 1997 and I don't know, behind a blockbuster.
yeah, yeah. I think, also like a wife and kids material, and, if you focus on job or just other things, but, just try not to live in regret, just kind of, roll with what I got. So,
Oh, and that's what I was going to say, too, before I was so rudely interrupted by Jacob and his youngness was.
Hey, I'm just saying, write jokes, Jason.
Well,
Just learn
that's
how
the
to write
thing. Like,
jokes,
I don't
bud.
think I would have had the ability to write the jokes that I can now at at your age. Like when you started at 17. When I was 17, I was writing stuff, but it was short stories and things like that. I didn't
Right.
know how to craft a joke, but I think over the years of in actually watching and enjoying comedy and watching as much comedy as I could watch, it sort of informed, like, by osmosis, learn how to craft a joke. So by the time I actually got to the stage, I was like, okay, this is how you craft a 5 minute set or whatever. This is what
yeah,
I
and also now it's so much easier to take in, and you can study more, and that's what I call it. Not just watch it on TV, listen to albums, but like go on to shows. And so there's every town now has a little scene of some sort.
Right.
So now you get to study a little more, and it's so it's so much accessible. Whereas before, you buy a book, you get a VHS tape, way back in the day, and then you just kind of see what happens. So
So who was
That's an
your?
interesting.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on a point there. That's interesting. Yeah, let me just fucking knock over my microphone real quick. That's an interesting point. Because there's this thing now. Obviously, it's been like that on bigger scenes, but forever. But I even see on smaller scenes now of people refusing to watch other comics.
yeah,
Like, so what do you think about that? Because I'm a film study guy. I watch comics while I'm writing jokes, and I'm like, that's a good fucking written joke. That's a good joke, and I'll kind of write, obviously not what they're doing, but it'll inspire me to kind of take that formula and put my own joke into that formula. You know what I mean?
yeah. For me, I think the it's not really just like it's not only just like watching or listen to albums. It's it's going out live. And I
Right.
had I had a local comedian tell me, I don't like live comedy. That's why I don't go to shows. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, yeah, and it's like saying,
Right.
it's like being a chef and going, I don't like food. That's like, okay, you there's a disconnect here. Um, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying not to worry about it anymore. If you're not absorbing it, and not just like watching and like, I don't want to absorb anyone's material. Just watching various people. That's the best way you get to learn and see what works. And I'm not asking you to absorb it, but like you've got to experience some.
Right.
Um, yeah, it just I don't understand the disconnect of not taking any comedy at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same way as when you go into a high school English class, you read Shakespeare before you write your own short story. It's like, you take in what's been done and then you do your own thing.
Yeah, and and it's just up to you. You got to put on that filter so you don't cross those streams or
Yeah.
steal from someone or whatever. But yeah, I don't understand people who just don't do it. And there's if you're an open micer and you're just not going and watch shows, well, there's so many. There's the networking, but there's also just general the how tos, what to do. It's a whole process. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but you get to know people, other comedians in your scene, and you're always going to find people that are funnier than you, and people that can write better than you, and when you start making friendships with people, like the biggest thing that we do when we all hang out is kind of maybe give each other notes and things like that, and it's not so much of a it's not like trying to tell you like, oh, your joke sucks, here, do it like this, but somebody could give you another idea of a direction to go, or that kind of that
Yeah.
throwing around of ideas to make your stuff a little bit better.
Yeah, no, totally. And there's so much involved. So if you're not, if you don't know for me, it's not, I don't want to say the word competitor, but I love it when I watch a comedian so good that I'm like, why? Like I always say, like every open mic night, I'm like, tonight's the night I quit. Why am I doing this? But also, it's like after a while, you're like, okay, that was inspiring. Now I feel like I need to up my game.
Yeah.
So I love that part of it, even though I threaten to quit every week. But that's just me and hating everything I'm doing lately. So
I know that feeling.
yeah,
We like to keep it positive here on Open Micers.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I really wish I could find someone who was funnier than me, though. Let me know if you find
I
anybody.
was gonna ask,
Um,
who was the one big comedian you loved growing up? Like for me, it was always George Carlin.
Mm.
that's a lot of
I
people's,
think
yeah.
I think for me, when I think back to bits that really stood out, I think Norm Macdonald keeps coming
Yes.
up over and over again because I absorbed all those half hours and
You
all
know the
those
thing
things,
about
but like,
Norm Macdonald is he is the only comedian I've ever seen that gets funnier when he's bombing.
oh yeah, yeah,
Right,
totally.
yeah.
And he's so weird. I just remember being a kid. Well, I don't know how old I was, but I remember one of his jokes, and I would use it because it was so funny. Where he talks about like it was like a dating game, and the whole thing was like, "What would you do to me if I was a popsicle?" And like it was this whole big act, and and it was and I remember it was the stupidest thing. And he's like, take off your wrapper. I'm probably butchering a bit. I'll grab you by your two legs, and then when he said, "I'll press you against the counter till you break in two." And I was like, that is such a punchline that's just so far out there, and like that's always in my brain. So every now and then I'm like, what? It's almost like a what would Norm Macdonald do to this bit? Because you it's such a misdirection, but or it's the total opposite, and it's totally what almost what comedy is. It's like take something, boom, 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 and hit them with something so weird that so absurd that it's the funniest thing in the world. So he's one that like sticks with me like big time. But there's bits that I remember like from people pieces, from back in, even Margaret Cho when she first started. I mean, there's so many certain acts that just stick out in my head. But I think Norm Macdonald was probably like one of the best, examples of stand up comedy in my head growing up.
I had a friend of mine that I was in a band with, and he was a huge Norm Macdonald fan, and this was back in the '90s, and he just had this VHS tape that was just full of like all the appearances that Norm Macdonald had, like on Johnny Carson and like all the late night stuff like that, and it was
Yeah.
just chock full of Norm Macdonald stuff, and we used to watch this tape all the time, and one of the funniest ones on there, like I said, he was doing a late night I think the Tonight Show, and he was just bombing, but it was so beyond hilarious the stuff he was saying because he knew he was bombing, so he was just like, I'm just gonna go for it, just like
Yeah. What do you do?
so
Yeah.
out there. It was amazing. I wish I still
Yeah.
had that tape.
Dude, I
Yeah.
mean, we'd be remiss though if we were on that topic and we didn't mention Patrice O'Neill,
Yeah,
because that's literally his entire thing. If you're bombing, fucking double down.
yeah.
Own it. Yeah.
Like, don't be a bitch. You've already made this stance. Just go for it.
I like to, if I have a joke that doesn't work, I like to own it, and then I kind of put it back on myself, or then I just direct it right back at the audience. And I think, I see a lot of people do that. But if you own it, it's not so lonely, and it doesn't look like you're oblivious to it. You're not that person trying out for American Idol who can't sing. You're kind of like, oh, well, that didn't go well, and then take that ownership of it and go down with the ship, I guess.
Right. Yeah, sometimes the funniest laugh you can get is when a joke bombs and you acknowledge that, oh, well, they can't all be winners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I mean,
just
Or
gut
if you
reaction
Fisherman,
laugh.
see ya.
just
Yeah.
lean into it and go even farther. How far can I take this before I finally get that uncomfortable laugh where people just like,
Yeah.
okay, like it's funny now.
I believe
Yeah.
it's actually further, you uneducated muppet. So
Further.
another question here. So when you have your vision for Lafayette comedy and comedy in Lafayette, do you see it as becoming the kind of hub that New Orleans is, where you have multiple open mics a night and you can kind of go from bar to bar and have, a show every week? Is that what's kind of in your head, or what kind of vision do you have for Lafayette comedy in the future?
That's not my vision because I like to be realistic because I mean it's the same reason I haven't invested in a comedy club. I don't think this scene could support it. Um, it's just I mean it's just a fact because in order to have a room, you got to do, you want to do a, 3 nights a week at least, multiple shows. I don't think it's there yet. Some cities can make it work, some can't. So, and we don't have the comedians to draw from. New Orleans, you can go to. They have shows every night. Austin, they have shows every night, but they have Houston. But they have the talent. They have the pool they can pull from. It's not even Baton Rouge doesn't have that many mics, so and they're bigger than us. So for me, no, it's not trying to get a show every night. It's just trying to keep like a regular rotation of like local book shows, showcases, if you will, and then bring in the national comedians. Because for us, I knew from the big get go, the only way to grow the scene was to have those shows.
Right.
And so for me, that's just keeping that in there. It would be easier if I had my own venue because it would, just be I can go, oh, well, we're doing 2 mics this, a week, and we're gonna have these other shows and start something regular. But at the same time, I don't have the confidence that it would sustain because it takes a lot. So
Yeah.
right now for me, it's just keep going, just these, just as many national shows as as local regional shows. That's my main thing, and I think that's what works right
Yeah,
now.
but you do have that sweet spot between Houston, Austin, and New Orleans. Like you're that midway point.
Yeah.
So
So back in the day when I started, I used to have to pay more, pay big time for comedians to come here because everyone wants to go to New Orleans because it's a vacation spot. And plus, that was only where comedians didn't go to New Orleans or Houston. So it took a lot. And now it's kind of changed where, New Orleans, you'll have small shows, 50, 60, 70 people capacity shows, but there's no middle ground. Now you have to, don't, if you're making money in New Orleans, you're doing theaters, 600 plus, 2,000 seaters, so now it's to a point, and I've seen a shift like right before COVID, especially to now, is that Lafayette is now the place where people are going, like, the last comedians we've had, Miss Pat, Robert Kelly, a few of the other bigger shows, they're not doing any other cities. They're just coming to Lafayette and then connecting to Houston or going further. So I finally feel like the tides changed a little bit, which was a, big thing. Cause I always say I was selfish when I started comedy. One, I want comedians here, so I don't have to keep driving to New Orleans and Houston. So it's like, okay, it saves me that time. But now Lafayette's on the map, and the fact that I get like all these not only comedians but their agents hitting up and going, hey, so and so said this about your room, said this about your room. That's the biggest thing I can ask for. So it's doing good shows and people going, this is a good place to go hit up go hit up Lafayette, and then now people know what it is now, and it's kind of mind-boggling that it's on the scene right now, and I couldn't ask for anything more.
What are your personal goals as far as you doing comedy? And detached from the producing aspect, what do you want to accomplish with your comedy?
I'm kind of approaching. Well, I am approaching it just like I did with music. Um, I know I'm not going to get up and move anywhere. I got wife, kids, kind of tied here with my job. So even when I played music, it wasn't about like, oh, let's try to make it, type of thing. It was stay grounded, stay real. If something happens, great, but just continue here. And if something happens, that's perfect. But right now, it's as long as I'm here, do the best shows you can do, from producing shows to performing to drawing people in. Make here the best that you have, and if something else comes along, great. But I'm not trying to you know put something. I'm not doing TikTok videos and trying to get discovered and trying to reel. It's like I rather spend my energy going, oh, so and so's coming to town. We're gonna have a good time. I'm gonna get you some food at. We're gonna hang out and we're gonna do a great show. And if you want to come back or someone wants to come back, let me know. So that's where I'm at.
do you
Oh
feel
yeah,
like
man.
that was one thing I was gonna ask you? Cause do you feel like TikTok and stuff kind of takes away from the mystique of certain comedians? Like I feel like doing it in an old school way where you just get out on the road and just road dog it, where you just get in front of as many people as you can, trying to be as funny as you can, and starting your career like that versus you know putting out a TikTok video where all of a sudden, you know, a million people like it and you go viral, and all of a sudden you've got a quote unquote career. Like, do you think the
Yeah.
presence of like social media like that is hurting or helping comedy at all?
No, I think it's all good because I mean, there's back up before like TikTok and stuff. Like Hannibal really popped when his Bill Cosby bit went out there. I mean, he was already established; people knew who he was,
Hmm.
but it,
Mhm.
you know, that was something for him that really popped him. So you can get people like that. I think any medium's great. I just don't have the, you know, one. I barely even put out clips. I only have one clip online, and it's, you know, it's the only thing you can find of me on YouTube, and it's just it was just a unique, you know, set, you know, bit or whatever. Um, you know, if I had the energy or just the, I don't know, the, I'm very like self conscious of putting stuff out there. You know, I don't know. So for me, I'm not going to do it. You know, I'm not at a point where I feel I need to do it, but other people do it great. The one thing I don't like right now, and I get a lot of agents hitting up for these type of uh, comedians, is that these Instagram comics now, you know, it's like, hey, book this person. He has like 100, you know, a couple 100,000 followers and whatever. His video has been watched 7 million times. And like, okay, but is he stand up? He's not. It's some dude who puts a face filter on in his car and does these, you know, bits. And then now they're shopping around as a comedian. And like, to me, like that muddies the water a little bit. But then again, great for him. I mean, you find a way, and hopefully that person's transitioned to, you know, into stand up. And they may have been a stand up comedian, could have been, you know, or, you know, someone in Hattiesburg, and then next thing you know, they're viral and great. Then you know, pushes them the next thing. I'm cool with that. It's just not my my flavor. You know, I don't post short bits of myself for friends on Facebook. You know, so I just kind of approach things a little different. But my goal is not to get myself out there,
See,
so I'm kind of like rooted here.
I don't like putting my stuff out like on, you know, like clips on YouTube or Instagram and stuff like that, because I feel like if I put it out there, then I can't do it anymore. You know, like
Hmm.
if I put it out
Mm.
on online, then people will see it, and like if I do it on stage, like I don't know, it's weird. I just feel like if I put it out there, then I can't do it on stage anymore. You know?
Yeah, I felt that way too. Like for other people, but I've seen so many people. You know, people come in and they do the sets, and they'll do material that's out there, you know, on Netflix, Amazon, and you know, it's yeah, you gonna have some true people, true fans who watched everything, and they're gonna know it, but they still enjoy the bits. I mean, I've heard so many comedians I've had here do stuff I know, and I'm like, you know, some people I can almost tell you every joke they do as soon as they start it. I know the punchline. It doesn't bother me. I
And
still enjoy it.
you
You
would
know.
think with a music background, I would have a different perspective on that. Like it's kind of like putting a
Yeah.
song out there. Just because a band puts a song out doesn't mean they can't do it live. You know?
Yeah, and I go through the that same way, but of thinking. But and even when I started comedy, I felt this kind of same way. I felt like I had to have more, but I realized like you know who's your audience. You know, yeah, you get some regulars, and I'm sure they're tired of hearing the jokes, but if they're still laughing, you know, then great. And then
Yeah.
most of your crowds, you know, it's new people. You know, they keep cycling through, and so yeah, I don't even worry about it anymore. I get you know I get in my head too because I do a show and I'm like, how many people were here last time? I'm sure they've heard all my jokes, you know, because I've been, you know, hosting all the shows, but that's just the nature of the beast, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Well,
biggest thing for me is that there's a comedian I really like, and he put out an album last year, and there was stuff on there that I know because like there was a compilation he was on, and it went back 8 years, and I went back and traced how far. But that was, you know, that was his first album, and those are his early bits, and so those are, you know, the ones you hold tight. And people do that for years and years and years before they even do an album. So
Yeah.
they've been repeating it and repeating it over and over again, and then you know, then it's out there.
well, I need to get running here in a couple of minutes if I'm going to make that open mic, boys. So,
All right.
uh,
The
JP,
true
thanks
open
so much for
micers.
coming on, man. Really great having you. And last plugs. Let's tell the people where they can find you, what everything they need to know about Lafayette comedy.
Yeah, just Lafayette comedy on all the social media except TikTok. You know, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Twitter's garbage. Don't worry about it. And then, just LafayetteComedy.com. We're not too far from where you're at. I've driven to both of your cities, so it's not a bad drive. And, if you want to come see some shows, come on down. Or if you're a comic and you want to come through, shoot me a message and we'll try to squeeze you on a show.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, man. Thanks so much for coming on again.
So what you got
my
going on,
plug,
Jacob?
Yes, tomorrow night I'm going to be on a Zoom show. Might be the last ever Zoom show I ever do. You don't know at this point. It's called One More Dad Joke. So you can follow One More Dad Joke on Facebook. You can follow Open Micers on Facebook to get that Zoom link. It's gonna be all clean comedy with your best dad joke at the end of it. So yeah, I don't know. Sit down your fucking 5-year-old in front of it, make them watch my jokes.
Fantastic.
Great promos.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't have any booked shows that I can think of right now. Just open mic stuff and trying to get some shows going in New Orleans too. So hopefully I can get a foothold over there and build some shows over there. And so keep an eye out for that. Just keep an eye on everything here at Open Micers on Twitter and Facebook. So JP, it's been awesome, man. Glad to have you on the show. It's good to talk to you again. And,
Thank you, man. Carlos Mencia, August 6th and 7th. Thank you.
Let's see who we got coming up. We got Carlos Mencia, August 6th and 7th. You got, let's see, of course, Kyle Kinane. I'm going to have to come over for Kyle Kinane on December 8th. Just go to LafayetteComedy.com. Got a whole host of people coming over there in Lafayette. And if you're in the Lafayette area, do yourself a favor and go check out some of these shows. So that's going to do it for this week. Anything else before we walk out the door, Mr. Craig?
No, I'm good, fam. Let's get it.
All right, let's go ahead and get out of here. If you want to email us, you can email us, openmicerspodcast@gmail.com. We're at Open Micers on Twitter and Instagram. And, of course, Open Micers Podcast on Facebook and OM Podcast, openmicers.com, to go to our Patreon, which you can support us. Support us over there, like that bastard BJ DeBlow. And we'll see you next week.